Welcome to Quake Challenge. This is your first lesson. We're going to talk about the power of our thoughts. I think it's so important to start with this lesson. As far as I'm concerned, everything else after this is based off of our thoughts. So today's going to be a little bit longer of a lesson, but from there, they're going to get a little bit shorter. You're going to start to see the different layers that we're involving. So we're going to start with talking about the power of our thoughts. So we introduced the concept of thought. We're going to talk about why we think the way that we do, how our thoughts shape our emotions and our behaviors, how we can begin shifting our internal programming. You will learn how to identify unhelpful thought patterns and begin practicing awareness using tools like, there's this great YouTube video that I love, Anthony Metivier. He talks about 2 questions to ask yourself to start becoming aware of your thoughts. So that's the first tool we're going to use today. The second tool is a self-coaching model. It's the CTFAR model based on circumstance, thought, feeling, action, and results. So we'll talk about that more later. And we're also going to talk about a PQ, or positive intelligence quotient. This was a program I took last year. It's awesome. I'm going to show you how to use it. And so let's get into the lessons here. So you are here because you've already done something most people will never do. You've decided to challenge the way that you think, and that's a big deal. So I want to acknowledge that because it's not easy. Most people spend their whole lives reinforcing the same thought patterns, stuck in loops of fear, regret, or self-doubt. But not you. You've chosen the Quake Challenge, so congratulations. So it's called Quake for a reason, because what we're about to do is shake the foundation of your thinking. And just like an actual earthquake, it can be uncomfortable. It can feel unstable, even dangerous. But the instability, the uncertainty, that is where transformation happens. All right, so it's not like your cozy, safe self-help challenge. It's an adventure. Like I said, a journey into uncertainty, and that means risk. It takes courage to question your own mind, to confront the possibility that the way you've been thinking might not be helping you. So on the other side of the risk, a life you're no longer a prisoner of your own thoughts, okay? So let's get into it. I like to start by explaining, it's a little bit of neuroscience involved, but I'm not going to get too technical. So first, why are we wired for negativity? And that is because of our survival brain. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Dating way back when. If you've ever felt like your mind is working against you, always scanning for what could go wrong, replaying painful memories, obsessing over worst case scenarios, you're not crazy, you are human, and you're operating on outdated survival programming. Your brain evolved to keep you alive, not happy. Back in the wild, your ancestors weren't worried about self-improvement or fulfillment. They were worried about not getting eaten or attacked. The brain that helped them survive by constantly scanning for threats is the same brain you have today, only now, instead of physical danger, it fixates on things like criticism, rejection, uncertainty, and failure. So here's the danger. When we let the survival brain run the show, it can control us. It keeps us small, scared, reactive. It makes us see threats where there are none. And worst of all, it convinces us that our thoughts are reality. But what if they're not? And I can tell you they're not. What if your brain's warnings are just outdated programs? So you have to be open to that when you're learning about all these concepts and how to shift them. So what if you don't have to listen to every thought that pops into your head? That is the first shift in perception, that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. If you ever read Eckhart Tolle, he has some wonderful readings about this, which I will loop in here and there throughout the program. All right, so we're going to talk about the link between thoughts, depression, and anxiety. And I put a little quote here. Marcus Aurelius, I love him, big Stoic philosophy fan. He says, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And I love that. So this is to lead into this, but most of the suffering that we endure is created in our own minds. And if you haven't heard anyone say that before, I'm going to explain. Hopefully this makes sense to you. Being aware of this one concept is very powerful if you can just start being aware of it. It can wipe out almost all of your depression and anxiety. So I like to kind of point out that the suffering, the stories we tell ourselves, most of them are about past, which leads to depression and fears we create about the future. So with depression, it's often tied to thoughts that are stuck in the past about regret or shame, or a belief that nothing will ever change. Some of those like self-limiting beliefs based on patterns in our past. Anxiety is tied to thoughts about the future, uncertainty, fear of failure, catastrophic what ifs. All right, and this is how we create our own suffering. It's not just what happens to us, it's how we think about it. And if you don't become aware of your own thought patterns, you will stay trapped in them. So awareness is the first step to freedom. I think before that comes willingness, which is like willingness to start seeing differently, and then awareness. All right, so we're on the awareness step here. We're going to get into the tools. Now that I've explained a little bit of like the negativity bias, anxiety, depression, how we create suffering in our own mind, now we're going to talk about the tools. And the first thing I want to give you is 2 powerful questions that can disrupt the cycle. All right. And this is where we start taking the control back. So next time you notice a negative thought that's pulling you into a spiral, you can ask yourself these 2 questions. Question 1, is this thought useful? So does it help you grow? Does it solve a problem? Does it help you take action? Or is it just keeping you stuck? The second question is, how does the thought behave? So, does it lead you toward strength, clarity, resilience? Or does it drain you and keep you afraid? So the questions create distance between you and your thoughts. They help you to see them for what they are, mental habits, not absolute truths. So these are just like helping you to see the patterns, recognize the patterns, and start questioning your own thoughts. So tool number 2 is the CTFAR model, which I will create a separate video to go over the challenges because there's quite a few challenge options on here. But one of them does use this model, and I'm going to show you how to use it. So your thoughts dictate your, the slide says reality. That should say result. I will fix that. So your thoughts dictate your result and your reality, but the reality that you think is there may not actually be there. So that's a different story. But C stands for circumstance. That is a neutral fact. So something that you can't control. Neutral. C, circumstance, weather, traffic, an event or situation that's outside of your control, something like that. COVID would be a good example of a circumstance. All right, and T stands for thought. That is the story that we tell ourselves, such as you could have a thought like, I am a failure. That would be a thought. That is where in these steps, you start to have control over the rest of these steps. So F is for feeling. That is driven by the thought. So it's the emotion created by the thought, such as hopelessness. A stands for action, and that is the behavior that follows the feeling. So for instance, giving up on something or inaction is also considered an action. The choice to not do anything. R stands for your result. So that is the life we create based on the actions, the outcome. So you can stay stuck or you can transform. So your thoughts drive the feeling, action, and result. If you want different results, you have to go back and change your thought. So this model helps you to recognize the negative thought and to try a new thought and see how that affects the model, the feeling, the action, and the result, the outcome. Sounds easy? Maybe not. It's not easy, but practice. Tool number 3 is the positive intelligence quotient, or PQ, and your judge. So this is a whole program. Like I said, I had taken this last summer for several weeks. We had our own pod where we had discussions, everything like that. But the program is based on these voices. So first you learn about all these negative voices that are in your head. Like they call them saboteurs. And the main villain or saboteur is your judge. Some people like to name their judge whatever you want to name it. You can name it King Nasty. You can name it the Lying Queen, whatever you want to name it. But there are voices in our head that feed us the negative thoughts. So they can make us avoid, control, procrastinate, self-sabotage. The program then introduces these sage powers that you can use to quiet your sabotaging voices, talking back to the negativity, reframing thoughts. That also gives us sensory exercises to help quiet the negative voices. Also, the sensory reps or exercises bring you back into the moment. They help you to be present, pull you out of your negative thoughts. So you're using your senses to build the positivity muscles. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. All right, that is the 3 tools that we're going to use in the challenges as you start to combat your negative thoughts. And that pretty much wraps it up. Just for a final thought here, I want to add that this is your challenge today to start noticing your thoughts and asking yourself, is the thought useful? How does it behave? How does it make your body feel? I think that's a big one. Like when we have a lot of stress or negativity, our body's going to feel a certain way. So you might want to pay attention to that too. So spot your judge saboteur in action and just call it out, like start talking back to it. So this is the start, day 1 of your Quake, of your shift. It's the destabilization of old patterns that have held you captive. It's not going to be comfortable the whole time, but nothing great ever comes from staying comfortable. If you think about that, it's true. Sometimes you have to do a hard task or hard lesson or program in order to change the trajectory of your life. So it is a risk, it's an adventure, it's stepping into the unknown, and it's the only way to build a mind that is truly free. And I do believe that. So tomorrow we'll go a little deeper, but for today, day 1, just start noticing. And the shift has already begun when you start becoming aware. So like I said, I'm going to give you a PDF with all the challenge options in it. And I'll also do a separate video, but I will show you here real quick too, in the screen share, that we have some challenges here. I will go through them. So the main exercise for today is just start observing your thoughts. If you want, you can write down a thought that's been bothering you. Ask, is it useful? How does it behave? You can try plugging the thought into the CTFAR model. Okay, and that is going to help you to trace maybe you've been getting results in life that you don't love. You can trace that back to your action, your feeling, the thought that you had about the whole circumstance, and change your thought and start rewriting. So this first exercise uses a little bit of all 3 tools. And so it kind of walks you through there. I'll put these in the PDF for you. Try sensory rep, which is like, you might rub your fingers together and just try to feel the pattern on your fingers. You might close your eyes and rub your temples, or tap your feet on the ground for a few minutes, or go for a short walk and just try to tune into all the sounds around you and the smells. Um, I don't know how that would go if you live in the city, but I'm blessed to live in a kind of a rural area. So I love taking walks around here. Yeah, so this just gives you a few ideas for sensory reps. Then we're gonna move into some other challenge options because some of these are like pretty short. It gives you a 5-minute timed challenge, but you could even just do 2 minutes if you want. So set a timer for 5 minutes, grab a piece of paper or open a notes app for the next 5 minutes, write down every thought that comes to your mind. It's a thought dump. We call it a thought dump in the coaching world. So, and then you're going to try to like circle any repetitive negative thoughts, and then you reflect. You can do journal prompts too. I think every day of this challenge, I really try to encourage everybody to keep a journal and start writing down at least 3 things that you're grateful for every day, because that really starts to shift your mind into a more positive place. So I'm going to challenge you to do that. Challenge number 3 here, flip the script. This can be like an interactive challenge. So you're going from like survival brain to thrive brain. There's the neutral observer in between, which is also really helpful because sometimes when we're getting pulled into drama or different situations that are not in our control, we can choose to have no opinion at all. And that's okay. We don't need to have like strong opinions about everything. That's one of the things I love about Stoicism. They talk about that a lot. All right, so interactive challenge. Challenge 4 is awesome. I love this one because it uses an acronym of Quake. And so to disrupt negative thoughts, use the Quake method, which the Q is question it. Is the thought true? Where's the evidence? You understand the source. Is a thought coming from fear, past, or someone else's expectation? A, assess the thought's usefulness. I know that's like a tongue twister. Assess its usefulness. Is the thought helping to move you forward or keeping you stuck? K is kickstarting a reframe. So how can I rewrite it? And then E is for engaging with reality. So take a deep breath, do a sensory rep, focus on what's happening right now. So E is like you're being present, engaging with the moment. And take one thought you're struggling with and run it through the Quake process and see how it changes. Challenge 5 is to give your inner judge a name. And this one's kind of cool because this just helps you to become more aware of that main voice in your head that's always like telling you something negative or telling you that you're not enough. So it's just a creative challenge. You can journal about this one too. They say like Doomsday Dave or the Shadow. So next time you hear it, you can call it out by name. Draw or describe this for, okay, so the bonus. And then challenge 6 is reverse gratitude list. I say you can also just write down your gratitudes here, but this says you can list 3 challenges or struggles that you're facing. Under each one, a lesson that you could take from it, a way it might be shaping you into someone stronger. Another really foundational concept in Stoicism, gonna keep talking about this, I love it. The obstacle is the way. Anytime you're facing a challenge, if you want to find something in there that's gonna help you grow, you will be able to do it. You can always find something in there that's gonna help you grow. So that's a big challenge. I feel like for me, maybe that came like a little bit later in my journey or like not day one, but you can start being aware of things like that. I had a major flood in my house a couple years back. Well, I guess it was 3 years at this point. Half of my house was pulled apart and had to be rebuilt on the inside. And it was like a little bit shocking at first, but as the process went on, I was able to see like how I got a lot of new material in my house. I learned a lot. I made some really good connections with contractors and people that I could use again for different house projects or needs that I had. So at the end of it all, I could definitely pull some gifts from that. It was not like a pleasant experience the whole time, but so think of like challenges you've had in the past and try to pull something good out of those. And you can use that in real time too when you get good at practicing this. I guess I just explained all the challenges, so I probably won't do a separate video for those, but I will definitely give you the PDF so you can follow along. And yeah, let me know how you do. I'm gonna put us all in a group together so that we can discuss anything that we come into. If we want to start a discussion about one of the challenges, something that we learned or breakthrough that we had, we can do that. And then I will let you know what is coming up next for day 2. All right. I hope you guys have an awesome day. I hope that this is helpful for you, and I look forward to the rest of our time together.